steadily it rises. Public preference for Lincoln Continental as the symbol for today's luxury motoring.
Hey, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict, and I want to hit you guys with a shorter, quick video to talk a little bit about the differences between 64 and 65. These are my two personal cars, and I always like kind of talking about the minor differences. Some of you guys have chimed in and you said you've appreciated these videos, so I'll continue to do them, and hopefully I can also do some differences between the 1, 2s, and 3s and so on and so forth. But before we get started, check out Lincoln Addict Podcast. You can go to lincolnaddict.com and find ways to listen, or just search Lincoln Addict via your favorite podcast app. So I often talk about, from a profile standpoint, the 64 and the 65. You can tell from a side profile the difference typically by looking at the front fender. The front fender is going to have the turn signal in it, whereas in 64 it was basically flat at the very front, right? So it wasn't there. At 65 they added the turn signal to the front, and it has this, what we kind of refer to sometimes as a cage. So this is what goes over the decorative piece, and these are made out of pot metal, so typically you'll see these get re-chromed, and this one, if I kind of show up close a little bit, you'll see is not in perfect condition. Robert, when I bought this car from him, he had put on, I believe, an NOS set on this car front and back, so these were extras that came with the car. So again, 64 and 65, they look very similar from the side. They both have flat glass for those 2 years, 64, 65. And then, of course, on the front, you'll see this cage, if you will, and that indicates kind of an easy way to tell the difference in 64, 65. Now, also, that's at the front. So at the back of 65, you're going to have what I kind of refer to, and some others as well, you'll have this cage, if you will. Now, 61, 2, 3, and 4 had literally the same as this without the middle cage here. So you'll see in a minute, I'm going to show you the 64. It basically is similar to this. It just does not have this middle section. It has the same guy here, the round, and we'll talk about the difference in the lens itself. So if you're ever looking at a car online, oftentimes, and I remember when I first got into Lincolns, I was always like, God, what year car is that? The 1, 2s, and 3s, a little bit harder to tell apart from the side, but the 4s and 5s, certainly the giveaway is the cages, if you will, on the front and back. Now, I'm gonna come over here in just a minute and show you something that you may not know about the taillight lens on it, but basically, this is an extra taillight lens for the 65 that came with the red car that we call Rita Hayworth. Again, if you looked at the 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, right, 61 through 65, these lenses look identical. And for the most part, you know, to the natural eye, you would say, yeah, they're pretty much the same. Now, there are some guys that will modify their car, and this is basically just a bolt-on modification, and they will put a 65 cage, you know, whether it comes with the lens, more than likely it would, and they'll have, you know, they'll basically install these on their 1s, 2s, 3s, or 64s. You'll see that from time to time. Maybe you guys want to do that. And if you didn't know, I was talking to my friend Teresa Connor, aka TC, and we were talking about some of the key differences, and I want to call these out. So I appreciate her. She always is talking Lincoln. She's been working on these cars a very long time, and she knows her Lincoln stuff. Often I'll be like, hey, where does this bolt go? She'll tell me right away. So shout out to TC, love what she does. She can really finish up a Lincoln and make it look nice. But here's what I want to do is I'm going to take the phone off the stand, and we'll go ahead and show you something again that you may not have heard or seen or ever noticed yourself. Let's do it. All right, this is the perfect angle right here to get what I'm trying to kind of showcase. If you look at this, and I do believe this is the same on 61, 2, 3, and 4. This is a 64. You'll see those lines in there. That should be for all of the taillight lenses, okay? Now, when you go here, you can clearly see there's no cage on it, right? We know that. But if you do look in there from that angle, you'll see what almost looks like those lines, okay? 65 does not have that. Okay, so it's kind of hard to tell. I know there's some shadows and whatnot there, or the way the light's hitting it. But this one's not wiped down. This has just been sitting in a box. But this lens, you can clearly tell, even though it has the circle piece, kind of what I call the circle piece down there, has this guy on it, but the lens is different. Okay, the other difference is if you look here, you see where it says 65CL and it's faux MoCo for Ford Motor Company. That is different as well. So here what you're going to see is 61, and it's probably not going to show up here, but there's some lettering there that is not here. You see this one says SAETSDB. Faux MoCo and 65. The other thing on the 61, 2s, 3s, and 4s is you have a really teeny tiny Ford Motor Company logo right there. So a little bit different in these two. And this would be the same setup without the cage for 61 through 64. 65, they changed it again with the aesthetics. With the front, they added the cage, and it made sense to kind of switch this up. Now, there's other differences, like this piece is not here, and the bumper inserts are different in 65, but we'll cover those in another video. So there you have it. What do you guys think? Is that something you knew? Some of you do. I appreciate all the comments that you guys will chime in sometimes and say, hey, don't forget about this, or technically it was that. I have been learning and reading about these cars a very long time, and I'm very fortunate to live in the Tampa Bay area where we have Lincoln Land with Chris Dunn and his team, including Teresa. We have Blair Farmer, for years has been Lincoln Continental Services. He had a shop back in the day with John Cashman, so there's lineage there. John Cashman obviously hailed from this area, kind of the greater Tampa Bay area, and Kelly and Herb over at Old Lincoln Park. So we've really got a whole vast knowledge of these cars that came from kind of a small area in or around the Tampa Bay, including Clearwater area, and we're certainly lucky. We'll continue to pass down some of this knowledge to everyone. Please subscribe, like, comment, share this with the kinfolk. And if you like what we're doing here, again, check out Lincoln Addict Podcast via most podcast apps. Just search Lincoln Addict. Appreciate your time. Stay on the rise and have a safe weekend. It's Super Bowl weekend, so be safe. Peace.